Hi guys, I decided to go ahead and do another Facebook Live today. Last time I'm actually in our California office today, so I haven't done one from here yet. But last time I talked a little bit about discipline versus motivation. And I was talking to those people that find it hard to get in a routine and to find discipline and to get that get up and go, that motivation that they need to go. So I want to talk today to the people who are at the other end of the spectrum. So what I'm talking about today is a mindset of goal orientation and of working hard and progressing and challenging yourself versus that of a perfectionist or perfectionism. And so I feel like I can speak to this very personally because I have tended to be a perfectionist in my lifetime. And the pitfalls are just as bad as the people who are having a hard time getting motivated, right? So somebody who is a perfectionist is somebody who things are never going to be good enough because there's no such thing as perfection, right? So we're striving for something that doesn't exist. So I want to talk a little bit about why is that not a good idea, and you know, if you can rein that in, if you can hold on to those things that drive you and that make you want to continue to grow, that growth mindset to continue to get better and still cut yourself some slack, rejoice in the moments of success rather than feeling like it's not good enough, then it can be something that really, really creates an incredible life, an incredible growth experience. And so I want to talk about some of those things. So one of the first things that I wanted to bring up, when you are a growth mindset person, you're going to feel joy at every step of the way. You're going to see things as a journey. You're going to constantly be looking for new ways to grow, not because you're beating yourself up, because you're enjoying the experience, learning, progressing, that kind of thing. Versus as a perfectionist, it's kind of that mindset that it's never good enough. There's no joy, none. Even in the moments where you've worked really hard and you achieve something great, there might be a moment and then it's on to what's next. You know, it's not good enough in that moment. So that's the difference in those two mindsets. And you can, it's got to be a conscious shift. You know, just like we talked about with creating discipline, it's a practice. It's something you have to keep working towards. So when you realize that you're in this kind of mindset of being a perfectionist, recognizing it's really important so that you can then start to reframe your thoughts and start to take a step back, take a breath, feel joy, feel proud of what you've accomplished in that moment, what you've worked so hard for. So it takes practice to start to kind of move from that perfectionist sort of mentality to the goal-minded or the growth-minded sort of mentality. One of the problems with not feeling joy in your successes and in your progress and in your journey is a lot of times what happens is you give up. Because if there's no joy, then why bother? So we're all about making this healthy lifestyle, and part of that is up here. It's not just do I have muscles and do I have energy and things like that. It's also, how do I feel about myself? What do I think about myself? How am I laying my life out in a way that makes me feel accomplished and happy and joyful? So kind of jumping over to my next point, which is balance. So, I mentioned a little bit about finding balance. I feel like when we get into that perfectionist mindset and nothing's good enough, we start to lose balance in our life because the striving starts to take over. And rather than it being something that's, whatever that goal is, whatever we're perfectionist about, starts to take over. And a lot of people in the competition world can completely relate to what I'm about to say because it happens a lot when we're getting ready for a show. And to a certain extent, it kind of has to, because we do really have to focus in order to make that goal to get on stage. At the same time, if we're rushing it to stage, if the show that we chose was too soon so that we can't still have some semblance of balance in our life, then my opinion is we need to take a step back and maybe make a different decision. And I do this with my athletes all the time. And what I love about the athletes, especially the ones I've been working with for a long time, they'll say it to me before I say it to them, which is really nice. When they realize, hey, my life is starting to get out of balance, I'm starting to lose my joy for what I'm doing, let's take a step back. Let's maybe reverse for a little bit, let's take a little bit more of an off season, or let's just take a little bit longer to prep so that we're not having to, grind it out so much, so that I'm still giving to those people that I love in my life, I'm still being able to have some social life, those kinds of things. When we're in that perfectionist sort of mentality, that's a real hard decision to make. That's a really hard thing to do because we're just beating ourselves up so much for it that we can't even, step back and enjoy that moment of breathing. Sometimes we just need a day off. We need a week off. We need to just stop and breathe for a minute. So balance is really, really important. And when you're in that growth mindset, it's a big picture sort of thing. So it's not just about the prep you're doing for one show or whatever that short-term goal is. It's about the lifestyle. So you're able to make decisions that actually help you to stay in balance and create more joy and more satisfaction in life. And at the end of the day, truly, my perspective has changed so much as I've gotten older. So, I know I bring up my age a lot, but I'm going to be 50 in a couple of years. So for me, it's really important that that I'm enjoying my life. You start to realize that there is not an infinite number of hours, days, minutes in your life. And so to look back and realize, hey, I missed out on all the joy of, spending time with my friends and family and doing all these things because I was so focused on getting a trophy, So it's balance. It's important. And I'm not saying the trophy's not great. I'm not saying the stage isn't great. I'm not saying all those things are amazing. They're awesome goals to have. We need to be able to have balance. We need to realize that it's not everything. So, and I feel like being part of a growth mindset where it is a bigger picture allows for that balance versus I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. If I don't grind harder, if I don't work, just hammer myself into the ground, I'm not good enough. That's that perfectionist mindset that I'm suggesting we get away from. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and I talked about balance, and this kind of rolls into what I'm talking about next, is priorities. So it's very important, especially when you take on something as intense as competing, and there's other things that fall into this category too, but since this is an area that, Fit Body Fusion and myself as a coach focus on, that's, I kind of keep bringing it back to the competition. It's really important to set your priorities, and that will help you with the balance, realizing what's the most important thing to me as a mom, as a wife. Those things have to be up here on my list. A lot of times there are days I miss a workout. There's days that, maybe the food isn't perfect because I've taken the family out. I know I can still find balance in that. I know I can still make things work within that. I have a lot of practice. And at the same time, there are times you just kind of got to let loose. You got to have those priorities. You got to realize that there is a hierarchy. Our jobs are in there as well. I work a lot. I feel like my clients are like my kids. I love them too. And so making sure that I'm giving to them. But if I'm not taking care of me, I can't give to them. So this is where, having that list of priorities. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you taking care of yourself? Yes, of course, we want to get our exercise in. We want to eat right and all those things. But if I'm not getting enough sleep and I'm getting up at 3 a.m. every morning, I'm not really doing myself any good. So I got to make sure I'm healthy. I'm keeping stress reasonable. I'm keeping my sleep in order. So health has got to come first. Then I got to think about, am I taking care of my loved ones and my family? Am I taking care of my responsibilities in terms of my job? And we've got to put a roof over our head, and we got to, do the things. And then my passions, right? For me, that spills over into my job. But if you could do that, that's great too. But having those priorities in mind, I think sometimes helps us to cut ourselves a little slack when we start to beat ourselves up about not doing everything perfect, right? Having that big picture in mind. having that growth mindset. When I'm not perfect, that's okay. How might I grow? How might next time I do a little bit better job, or I plan a little bit better, or I, schedule out my day a little bit better. Sometimes it's saying no. Sometimes it's saying, for those of you that saw I posted that I'm actually taking on some new clients. It's been a while. I haven't been doing a lot of consultations because I got to a point where I had, the number of clients that I put as my, my max, because I know after that I'm not as effective for my clients and for my family and for myself. I have to have balance. And so sometimes you got to say no, and that's something I really love about all of our coaches. And we all have, we kind of have that idea in our mind as to how we need to partition out our life so that we are, doing our very best job for our clients and ourselves and our families, and still able to do the things we want to do. So I think that's a really important thing. And it takes, again, all these things take practice, but these are just seeds I'm planting so that you can start to kind of, think about your own life and where you might do a better job of prioritizing, of finding balance, of finding joy. So the next note I had written for myself was satisfaction, and that kind of goes into the joy. Those kind of play on each other, but the satisfaction is something that's a little different to me. Just that kind of sense of like, wow, I did a great job. Maybe I could have done better, right? That perfectionist mentality. We can always do better. We can always be better. That's why I'm saying, can we shelve that? Can we just put that aside and go, hey, you know what? I did a really great job. I got to the gym every day this week. Maybe I didn't, get in my cardio or something else, but I'm happy with what I did. I'm satisfied. I know that I prioritized and I had balance in my life. I got the sleep that I needed, and I made the right choices for me. I had, one of my incredible athletes, that this week I told her, I said, hey, you have a lot of muscle. She's got some injuries and things she's dealing with. I'm like, back off. If you need a day off, take it off. If you need to take a muscle off, take it off. She's like, what? No, I'm a perfectionist, and she thanked me. She said, thank you for giving me, that permission. But I want you guys to give yourself that permission. If somebody's pushing you beyond that, then you've got to stand up for yourself, be your own advocate. Say, hey, no, this is something I've got to do. I've got to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and that, I've got longevity. And if something needs to heal, it needs to heal. And then I'll come back to it. So satisfaction. I talked a little bit about this, but, putting your health first, and when I talk about health, I'm not just talking about physical health. I'm talking about mental, emotional, and physical health. And physical health includes, like I was talking about before, getting enough sleep, making sure that stress is under control. There's certain things we cannot control in our lives. There are things that are going to happen, a death in the family, or somebody gets sick or something. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of different those types of things in the last couple of years, as many of us have. So, sometimes you've got to cut yourself some slack during those times, and you've got to just allow yourself to heal and allow yourself to deal with those things. But you have control over the other things. The things you do have control of, sometimes you've got to, to take some things off your plate. What I suggest is they not be the things that are going to drive your health forward. Those sometimes are the first things to go. So making sure that, we're really taking care of our health, especially during those really hard times, is really crucial. Otherwise, we're not going to be there for anybody. And it's just going to make life much harder. So, and then the final thing I wanted to talk about is, when we get into that perfectionism sort of mentality, we get into that analysis paralysis. So in other words, nothing's good enough. Sometimes we start to really spin out. And a lot of times what I see happening with clients that have that perfectionist mentality, they start out the gate really great. Like they're just doing so good. Everything's perfect. Getting every workout in. Food is always 100% perfect. And then something happens. Maybe something happens in their life. Something happens that's out of their control or in their control that throws them a loop. And they're not perfect for a week or for a month or something to this effect. And they just completely give up. They give up on themselves. They give up on their program. They completely quit. And so this is where that perfectionist, I feel like that's where that perfectionist mentality really is at its absolute worst, because it's when you need to take the most care of yourself because you're going through some things that a lot of times, well, if I can't do it perfect, I'm just going to give up. And in that, we feel like we give up on ourselves. We give up on so much. So if we can get back to that growth mindset that I was talking about, and I have a couple people right now who are just phenomenal at this, and I admire them so much every time I hear from them, because they'll say to me in their check-in, hey, I wasn't perfect this week, and I had this going on and that going on and this going on, but I did my very best, and I'm really happy with my results this week. And through the holidays, for example, that might have just been maintaining or just barely gaining, so somebody who can have that sort of mentality, hey, I wasn't perfect, but you know what, I approach things in a balanced sort of way. I made some progress in the way I'm looking at, food and the choices that I'm making. Maybe I wasn't able to log everything. That's the mindset that will get you to your ultimate goal and help you stay there. That's the mentality that's going to create a lifestyle. And, beyond that, a level of satisfaction and joy and happiness, which at the end of the day, isn't that all what we're all looking for? I mean, the trophy on the stage, yeah, does that make you happy? Absolutely. In that moment, I'm talking about life happiness. I can remember so many times that I won or placed really well at a show, and man, that trophy meant the world to me. And now I'm like, I don't even know where they are, honestly. So, I'm not putting that down. Obviously, this is a big part of what I do, and there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing, my athletes up there and succeeding. And, but the thing I remind them is this is the cherry on top. If what we're doing is creating a lifestyle and creating satisfaction and happiness and joy and good habits and motivation and all the things that I talk about, and if we then place or win or whatever, that's the cherry on top. That's just saying, hey, way to go. Here's some recognition for you. But the take home is so much greater. And I see it all the time with people who don't have that balance, who aren't practicing some of the things that I'm talking about. Those are the people that, you see, blowing up 20 pounds in their off season, or, staying super lean and destroying their metabolism, and it's kind of that quiet killer that, you don't even realize until it's just, 5-10 years and down the road, and the body's not functioning like they're supposed to, and they're frustrated and everything because they just pushed it too hard, too long. So anyway, these are all the things that we work on at Fit Body Fusion, and I'm going to keep doing these videos talking about different things. There are once these are done, this will be live up on my Facebook Live, and we'll upload it onto YouTube. And so you can actually go on the Fit Body Fusion YouTube and see a lot of the videos that I've done before, where I talk about philosophies and eating and macros and some of the more technical things. I've been talking a lot about attitude sorts of things the last couple times, just because I feel like if our attitudes aren't in line, the rest of it is of no value. If we're not going to follow the program, it doesn't matter if you have the best macros in the world, which, by the way, there's no such thing because they're all individual to the person. But everybody's like, oh, can you just give me those magic macros? Well, no, because it's got to be the ones that fit you. But the point is, if you do have those right macros for you, if you don't have the right attitude going into it, where you're going to be able to sustain it, you're going to keep growing, you're going to allow yourself, to enjoy the process and to fall and to mess up and to be like, hey, I made a mistake. So cool. How can I learn from that? How can I continue to grow and get better? Versus, fine, I quit because I'm not perfect. Then you'll enjoy the process and be happier. So hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. I'm not able to read the comments as you guys are putting them up there. So I promise that I will read them, respond to any questions that you have. Again, please give me ideas. If there's certain things that you want me to talk about, I'm happy to talk about the subjects that you're looking for. And I'll keep hopping on here whenever I can. I used to try to announce them, but I never know when I'm going to have those, have enough time to do it. So I'm just going to hop on, and then we'll just keep putting those up on YouTube so you guys can go back and watch prior videos and that kind of thing. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend, TGIF, and heading to Tahoe this afternoon. So hopefully I'll be posting up some fun stuff. Maybe you guys will see me falling down the slopes or something, tumbling down. Anyway, so signing off. Thanks a lot for listening.